Nicky Billou. What a great pleasure speaking with Nicky. He helps organizations be better uh, by helping them realize their potential, by helping them kind of quone into a good direction. He has great examples of how he helped companies. Fascinating background, Nicky. He was born and raised in Iran. During the revolution, his parents took him out of there. The family went to Greece for a while. Then they eventually, thinking they were going to go back to Iran, but did not. They went to Toronto and stayed there. But we talk about his father and how he was such a role model, and he became an entrepreneur and worked hard, and how Nicky was able to really learn from him. Very, very interesting path. We talk about how what doubt does, how it kills. We have some uh, similar kind of books that we admire. Stephen Pressfield, of course, the War of Art. Talking about the resistance, but really great examples on how business owners, need help and can be, coached and uh, helped in a direction of positivity. So many times the owner gets stuck, but that's what Nicky does now. He's got all that he got from his past and from his father, built this company. He's also an author, wrote 8 books. He's also a podcaster. He's a thought leader, just a fascinating man. I really enjoyed this conversation with Nicky Billou. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Nicky Billou, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Nicky, what's a thought leader?
That's a great question. First of all, thanks for having me on the show, Joey. It's an honor to be here. The best way to define a thought leader is to by drawing a sharp contrast with an expert. And Matt Church, who's a man whose work I've studied and have been mentored by um, says an expert is someone who knows something. Experts are a dime a dozen. But a thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Thought leaders are rare and valuable, right? A thought leader is a go to authority. They're the person that in their space, people go, that's the guy, that's the one. He is the only person you need to talk to when it comes to doing X, when it comes to solving Y problem. Another way to draw a distinction between an expert and a thought leader is one by my good friend David Meerman Scott, who says an expert is like a cover band, while a thought leader plays original music.
Ah, very interesting. The term gets bandied about, Nicky. That's very interesting. An expert's a cover band, but a thought leader is the actual. Hmm. And Are you a thought leader?
Yes, 100%.
How so? You passed that criteria?
I do.
How so?
Well, I take the time to do a lot of original thinking.
Mm,
You know, um, I'll give you an example, if I may.
please.
This is a folder of some of my original thinking. It's on the subject of winning and high performance. Inside this folder are 56 of these pink colored sheets. And each of these pink colored sheets talks about an aspect of winning. And it's done in a very particular way. You start in the middle of the page where, this is something Matt Church originally created, which I borrowed from him, which is a statement. So when it comes to winning, the most important factor in becoming a champion is how you think. Then I explain it more deeply. How a champion thinks is the decisive factor in what makes him a champion. His thoughts, his attitudes, his beliefs are so precise that they allow him to win. And then I've got some case studies of people who've achieved championship caliber results in my experience. Teresa Dugwell, that's actually my sweet better half. She set 3 Guinness World Records for running on a treadmill for 12 hours. Robin Sharma, the author of the legendary book The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. You actually remind me a little bit of Robin, I should say, Joe. Very phenomenal dude. My good buddy Mark McCoy, Canadian Olympic gold medalist in the 110-meter hurdles. We've been friends and business partners, and we've co-authored a book together. My buddy Donovan Bailey. Donovan is also an Olympic gold medalist, again, someone I've worked with. Mark Ferris, who's been the number one realtor in Canada for one of the largest realtor companies. These are some books. This is a literature review that backs up what I've talked about here. Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, which is the study of success, Anders Ericsson's work, that he's published on 10,000 hours, and then one of my own books called Finish Line Thinking. Up here is a Venn diagram, and the one circle is focus, the second is action, the third is consistency. That's the winning zone when all three of those are applied. A metaphor here is how a champion thinks is like how the world's best operating systems runs a computer. Both are designed to generate top-notch performance. And then I've got 7 ways that I say this original statement here, depending on the type of audience that I'm saying it to. And I've got 56 of these on the subject of winning and high performance. That's some deep original thinking that I've done.
Certainly.
That's the kind of stuff I teach people to do in order to build their own thought leader brand. So let's say you wanted to become the Elon Musk, the Patrick Bet-David, the Steve Jobs of your space. I would show you how to create original thinking around the message that you want to put out there for the customers you're trying to help. I would help you make sure that message speaks to problems they're interested in solving. Then I'd help you put together a book, podcasting, video channels, podcast guesting in a very strategic fashion that in 6 months, 9 months, a year would help you massively scale your business. That's what Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Patrick Bet-David have done. Patrick Bet-David started the Valuetainment channel. When he started it, he had 200 insurance agents in his company. Successful guy, 200 insurance agents, nothing to sneeze at. Valuetainment allowed him to attract 27,000 insurance agents to his company. So he went from 2 million a year in profit to 270 million a year in profit. That's how this works.
Very interesting, Nicky. Very interesting. Your past intrigues me. You were born in Iran. Your parents took you, a Christian, by the way, in Iran, and your parents took you after the revolution. You were kind of in the 70s. You were born, or kind of growing up there. Then you went to Greece for a while. Then you went to Toronto. Your father was this great role model. He's no longer with us, by the way. God rest his soul. My condolences. But you're from from that kind of seeing your home country, that transformation? I mean, did that inspire you to be a thought leader? Does that childhood rearing help you, encourage you, give you fuel to do what you're doing now and helping others?
Well, brother, that's a great question. It was a searing experience to see the revolution happen. I tried to make sense of it for myself. When I was a kid, like, I mean, my parents would tell us, "Oh, this will be over. We'll go back soon." But,
Hmm.
that never happened, right? And I tried to grapple with living life newly in the West, and that I was going to be in the West. I wasn't going to go back home, and it wasn't a choice I made. It was a choice my family made, my mom and dad made. I didn't want to leave. But in retrospect, they made the right decision, right? We left tyranny and we moved to freedom. And if you think about that, that's important to me, Joey. Like freedom, free expression, free enterprise are at the foundation of my philosophy of life and business. If you take a look at what's going on in Iran in the news right now, Joe, um, young woman, 22 years old, Mahsa Amini, murdered for going outdoors with her hair partially uncovered. I mean, you think about that. That's nuts, And the people of Iran have risen up against their oppressors. Who knows how it's going to end up? I'm praying that they will be successful and overthrow these bastards. But uh, there are people here in the West who say, "Oh, this is so oppressive here. The West, oppressive,
Hmm.
racist, sexist, horrible." And I just like look at these people and I go, "Are you out of your freaking mind, or are you just malevolent and you're trying to sow dissension and destroy our great society?" It's one of those two, because clearly, if you compare where we live to the rest of the world, we live in the most tolerant, incredible, wonderful, free place on earth. And these people that are trying to tell us it's not that way, we need to push back very hard against them and make sure that they do not gain a foothold in the popular imagination, because the only way that evil triumphs is if good men and women stand by and do nothing. And letting these people badmouth the amazing society that we have is a form of good people standing by and doing nothing. So I don't do that. I always speak up about that. I speak up in my business life. And people say to me, "Nicky, oh, you shouldn't, you're going to lose business." And I have. I've lost business because there have been people who, don't like my point of view. And I just like ask him this question. If you don't believe in freedom and if you don't believe that someone has a right to speak up, then we shouldn't do business. You're absolutely right. But it's also attracted to me an audience of people who want to be around freedom minded people. Like, I believe that if you're a freedom minded person, then you should hang around people who are also freedom minded people. So for me, that's the foundation of my business. And my dad, he's the greatest man I ever knew, Joe. Like, he was a very proud man. He lifted himself up by his bootstraps. His father was a truck driver. In fact, his father died falling asleep behind the wheel of his truck. He crashed it, and that's how he passed on. He started a business. At one point, he had over 60 people working for him. He used to come tell me, "Son, did you know that we had, over 60 families that we fed this week?" Ours and that of his employees. He was very proud. He pulled himself up by the bootstraps. He was also a man who uplifted everybody around him. Like, if you needed a job, he'd find you a job. If you were looking to start a business, he'd help you start a business. If you worked for him and you were trying to buy a car, a house, or an apartment, you didn't have enough money, he would make sure you could buy that car, that house, or that apartment. I wanted to be just like him, man. You know what I mean? Like, who does that? Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou. Why would someone do that? Well, he was a Christian. He believed it was his duty to share his blessings with others. And he also did it because he could. He had the money. He had the financial wherewithal to be of assistance. That inspired me to become an entrepreneur. I wanted to help people. And then I get into business and I start getting into the business of, coaching, advising, workshops, seminars, that sort of thing, right? And I saw that so many people in business didn't have a clue how to do business. They were good people, but they just didn't understand how to run a business. They didn't understand how to sell. They, in fact, they were scared of selling. They go, oh no, selling's bad, selling's bad, selling's bad. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to. I don't want to come across like one of those people with commission breath. I just laugh, commission breath, right? And I just thought, wow, these good people, they're not getting the business they should be getting. Why? And it's because of their mindset around it. So I said, how can we turn that around? And I thought, my father used to say, don't sell to people, serve them. What if we reframe selling to service? Joe, you don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. No one wants to be sold, but we all love to buy. You love to buy. I love to buy. I just went online yesterday. I ordered a bunch of Leatherman multi-tools. They had them on sale. I'm going to give them away as gifts. I love Leatherman. I love Leatherman. They're awesome. Tim Leatherman, he's I had him on my podcast a few years ago. He's a great dude. And so I love it. Why did I buy? Well, Leatherman serves. Leatherman has good products. So that's why I did it. And I got excited, to do this. That's why I bought. And if people start to reframe selling to service, that means you take the attention off you, you put it on the other person. My father used to say, business is about people, not money. It's about people, not numbers. That person in front of you, Dad, would say, that's someone's son, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's father, that's someone's mother, that's someone's, brother, that's someone's sister. You got to treat them like you would treat your own. There's somebody who cares about that person, and then somebody they're a hero to. And, they probably had some tough knocks, some disappointments. Maybe even someone like you promised them everything and delivered nothing to them. So it's your job to serve that person. And I always remember that from my dad, man. I always remember that. Take care of the people in front of you. If they need something, give it to them. And that's what you got to be all about. First and foremost, come from the heart, brother.
A couple weeks ago, I was at a conference and bumped into this young man who had an Iran soccer jersey. Now, I'm a big soccer fan. And I said, you're in the World Cup. Congratulations. How's it going? And he just kind of shook his head and he said, it's hard for me to celebrate when so much bad things are going on in my country. And I said, the people of Iran are wonderful, just the government is terrible. I said, kind of like here. And he said, that's true, but you can't make the comparison. To your point exactly. The government here in the West, while there's plenty of room for improvement, it's a big difference. And I asked him, what can we do? What can we do in the West to support the people of Iran? And he didn't have a straight answer for me. He said, pray. What's your answer to that, Nicky?
Well, brother, I've been on a couple of TV shows. I happen to have some friends. Like in Canada, there's an outlet called Rebel News, rebelnews.com. I went on, David Menzies interviewed me. He's a friend. And then I went on Wayne Allen Root's show. And he's on the Salem network. And I talked about that. So, I told Wayne and David when they asked me, what can we here in the West do? Number one is write to your politicians and ask them to make statements of support for the people of Iran. And you may think to yourself, well, what's that going to do? That's nothing. That is everything for those people that are in jail and being beaten to within an inch of their freaking life. That people outside of the country know and stand with them is everything.
Wow.
So Anatol Sharansky, who later changed his name to Nathan Sharansky, was a Soviet dissident, a Jewish dissident. He was in the Gulag. He later on, when the Soviet Union broke apart, moved to Israel and became a prominent Israeli politician. He wrote a book about the case for democracy. Okay, and they said, what kept you going? You and your fellow refuseniks, they called them refuseniks, right? Because they refused to bow before the evil of communism and the evil of tyranny. They were mistreated. They were put in the winter in freezing conditions, in the summer in boiling conditions. They were given substandard food. They were barely given enough water. These people were being basically told, we're going to mistreat you till you give up mentally and you die. Not only did these men not give up, Okay, and in the case of Iran, it's men and women, mostly women. Just so I want to say it's the lionesses of Iran that are fighting. I want to make that clear. Okay. Not only did they not give up, they actually got stronger. And you know what gave them hope? People had smuggled in the speeches of Ronald Reagan, and they would read those papers until they broke apart in their hands.
Hmm.
And that would give them hope. When Reagan made the speech calling the Soviet Union an evil empire,
Right.
an evil empire, and saying that it is a sad, bizarre chapter in human history whose last pages are even now being written. Those words gave emotional succor to the men and women of Iran. It is everything for Westerners to stand up, put it on YouTube, put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, call your damn politicians, force them to get up and make statements supporting the people of Iran. The leader of the conservative party in Iran, Pierre Poilievre, spoke to a crowd of demonstrators in Ottawa and said that I stand with you, and that if I become the Prime Minister of Canada, I'm going to put the Revolutionary Guards on the terror list, so as a terror organization list, which
Wow.
gives the government a lot of control over how they can, seize assets and things like that from terror groups. And he said that I will stand and speak to the people of Iran from Parliament. I will come to more of these demonstrations and speak. And I'm telling you, that just the people demonstrating. This isn't even the people in Iran or the prisoners in Iran. They hear that, they cheer. It gives them hope. It gives them belief. It's like when the home team wins the World Cup soccer game, brother. You know what I'm saying? That's so important. Like, you want to do something, write, speak, do videos, and contact politicians and pressure them to act.
It's so easy now to contact, your local representative, your senators, and I'm here in the U.S., just south of you, from Canada, and people don't realize the impact of that.
Where
And
are you based in the U.S., brother?
I'm in right out of New York, in New Haven.
New Haven, Connecticut. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, not too far from you, and it's very powerful. And
Best pizza in America is in New Haven.
it's I'll
It's
make
the
the argument every time.
it's the
I'll
best
make
pizza in America.
Absolutely, that's what we're known for. Yale University and pizza, yes, very much so. Uh, Getting back to your father, I want to encourage people, by the way, to write your Congress people about Iran and support the great men and women there. But getting back to my father is an Italian immigrant, and when he came over to the U.S., his mother sent him. He had $20, lived with his cousin. He was a welder by trade, and I was taught at a very young age. He also started another business where he would repair trailers, and he would do these kind of odd jobs, and he would bring me, and I would notice a big change in his posture and his speech when the client was around. Okay, the client's around now, we act this way. And there's just so many subtle things that I took on. I started my business in the 90s, close to 30 years. I never missed a payroll. Very, very fortunate. I've helped families as well, but just the impact of seeing what my father did, seeing how he acted around them, I took down, and I continue to do this day, much like your situation yourself. You were inspired by your father and brought it forward.
Yeah, awesomeness, man. God bless you, brother.
It's very, very, it's, I don't know about you, Nicky, but often when I hear people want to start a business, I often try to talk them out of it, only in that I want them to take it seriously. Almost like when I play golf. I play a decent amount of golf, and people say they want to start golf. And if you don't, if you're just going to do it every once in a while, you're going to get upset with yourself. You're going to blame me. And I'm afraid this is going to do with a small business too. You have to take it seriously. You have to have a plan. You have to have mentors. You have to be a thought leader, etc., to move forward. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. First of all, you got to be all about people, make a difference for people, care about people. Number one. Secondly, you've got to put yourself out there and understand messaging, because a lot of people don't get differentiation. Their messaging really stinks. That's a
Mm.
technical term, stinks, right? And basically, folks, just you ask them what they do, and they say things. Well, we're the biggest. We're the best. This is what we do. We've been in business for 35 years. Nobody cares. Shut up. Stop
Right.
talking like that. Nobody
Mm.
cares. You know what they care about? They care about themselves and how you can help them.
Yeah.
All you have to say is, I solved this problem for this group of people, and that's it. What is business, Joey? It's Nicky Billou's patented triple P 7-figure solution. It's about problems, people, profit. You solve acute problems for wonderful people for amazing profit.
Mm.
That's it. That's all business is. If you don't get that and you don't live and breathe that, you're done. Done. Toast. Forget about it. Forget about it. What's the biggest problem a person has? If I were talking to you and I was trying to understand if I could help you, that's the first thing I'd ask you, Joey. What's the biggest challenge you're facing in your business? What's keeping you up at night? What isn't working as well as you'd like it to?
Mm.
Right? And if a person is willing to share that with you, then they're willing to engage in a dialogue to see if it's possible for them to have this problem solved and maybe you be a resource towards solving that.
Mm.
If they won't tell you that, number one, you either have not established enough trust and rapport with them going in, or they're just one of these odd people that wants to have conversations with people but never really want to engage in solving a problem. And either
Mm.
way, the first case, go back and get some rapport if you can, and in the second case, if they're the wrong sort of people, not everybody should qualify to work with you. Not everybody qualifies to work with me. There's people I'm going to say no to, and I think that's good. It's good that you say no to certain people in business. It's good that you say no to certain types of business, because if you take on business that you shouldn't have just for the money, you know what, you're going to end up regretting it later anyways. You really are.
Mm. Yeah, well said. Often when I talk to some, I'm in the tech industry, and all too often when they're trying to win over clients, they start killing them with features. I say, don't talk about features, talk about value. Talk about value. It's nice that you have a big green button here and does that. The point is what can it do for your client? You said earlier, everybody loves to buy, but nobody likes to be sold to. It's a big difference there.
Yeah, nobody likes to be sold to, right?
Nobody.
Nobody.
I
No, and you,
love. We have some similar. One of your interviews, you mentioned Steve Pressfield, "The Resistance: The War of Art," one of my favorites, and the other,
great guy.
"Doubt Kills."
Doubt kills the warrior, or the warrior kills the doubt. That's right.
It's so true. It's simple but true. Um, what's a charlatan marketer?
That's a good question. So, a charlatan marketer is somebody who's really good at selling. They know how to sell the sizzle, but they really suck at delivery.
Hmm.
Usually because they either don't know what they're doing or they don't care, right? They're people who can find your pain point and go, come on, let's do this. It's time. Let's fix this. And then they got strategies that don't work and they don't really care whether they work or not. I got somebody who, in many ways, is a wonderful, wonderful dude. And he's amazing at selling, but he's a charlatan marketer. And I'll tell you why he's a charlatan marketer.
Hmm.
He's a charlatan marketer because at the end of the day, he doesn't care whether you do the work or not. Once he sold the program to you, it's up to you.
Hmm.
That's his attitude. Now, some of his stuff's actually not half bad, but there's some of his stuff that sucks, and a lot of his stuff needs some handholding for a lot of people to get it going on in their business. And I'm like, that's not how I roll.
Wow.
When I work with people, whether we do one-on-one coaching with them, whether they're in a workshop with us, whether they're part of a peer group that we run, we hold their hands. If they don't get it, we're going to sit down with them and help them figure it out. That's super, super important. And a charlatan marketer usually doesn't have a great track record of success. So
Hmm.
you ought to look out for that as well. Someone who's the real deal usually has some real people that will say, yeah, we did good work for this individual.
It's fascinating concept because, like I said, I'm in the tech industry, and there's this one particular person group who's extremely polarizing in that I know respectable companies that follow and do well and love, and then the others hate. There's kind of no in between, and I respect both sides. I know, like I said, these tech companies that on both sides that love and hate. So it's like, so if it works for some and not for others, is it still a charlatan?
Look, probably not, like if the guy is sincerely trying to help people and you can see he's delivered for some people, you probably can't call him a charlatan.
Right.
But then again, if he took money and he knew it wasn't going to work for those other people, then yeah, he was a charlatan.
I mean, at the end of it, isn't it really all about accountability, Nikki? I mean, some of these business owners just need, like you mentioned, peer groups. When I entered my first peer group, it was the world change. Because I thought I was by myself on this island as a CEO. Nobody understood my problems. Payroll, banks, vendors, customers, employees. Just nobody's on my side. And then when I got into a peer group, I'm saying, wow, these people have the same problems that I. But just
Mm-hmm.
providing great accountability for a lot of these business owners is just really what they need most of the time to get them over that line. Do you agree? Disagree?
100%, brother. 100%. You know, um, we live in a world where accountability is not valued.
Mm,
Especially like men. There was a time where being a man meant you kept your word, even if it killed you. You know what I mean? That is not the case today, bro. That is not the case. Like I run a men's organization, okay, and we got about 18 men plus me and the man who run the organization. We want to grow it. And the number one lesson we want to teach those men is learn how to keep your freaking word. And so many men come in, oh yeah, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I keep my word. And they don't. They'll not show up to a meeting. They'll not communicate. They'll be late. And I just look at them and I go, is this how you run your professional life?
mm,
Because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? How you do anything, how you do everything. If
mm.
that's the case, buddy, you're going to fail because when you don't keep your word, you destroy trust in your word. Now, it's bad enough that other people lose trust in your word. But you know what's even worse? You lose trust in your word. And Joey, if you have told yourself, um, as an example, I'm going to get up at 6 to go work out, and you never get up before 6:15, but you keep telling yourself, I'm going to get up at 6, you're done. Your
Right.
trust in your word is gone down to zero. Zero. And that won't just affect you with your workouts, it'll affect you when you say, I'm going to triple my business. Because in your mind, you're telling yourself, no, you won't. No, you won't. Your word's shit. Your word's crap. You won't do it. So, the number one thing that I teach men in my men's organization is keep your word.
Mm.
I bust their hump to keep their word. And the men who stick around, they're the ones who go, yeah, I get it. I'm in. I'm all in for keeping my word. The men who don't stick around are all not in for keeping their word. You know what I'm saying?
Nikki, it's almost one of those things where, when somebody gets complimented to being a good father, I always think, well, damn it, they should be a good father. And if you have to compliment people on keeping their word, their values are somewhere where they shouldn't be. You mentioned about when you first came to Canada, how you had to adapt to a lot of the things because people wouldn't show up on time. Just being on time. I'm always early. On time is late for me. Just me specifically. I certainly don't have the answers to everything, but it's just amazing that we have to kind of stress keeping your word. Your word should be your word. Damn it. I mean, that's what I
But it
brought with
isn't.
my
Let's
father.
be honest. It
It's
isn't.
not.
It
It's not,
isn't.
unfortunately.
Like
Another
like
thing.
I'm going to tell you straight up. It is like we can say that till we're blue in the face.
Right.
98% of the people in the world today don't keep their word consistently.
Yeah. And managing expectations. Look, we had a meeting at 3. Something's come up. We have to push it. Just it's not like, and it's frustrating. And another issue I see with business owners is that of delegation. So often we see the owner, ordering the pizza for lunch. Somebody can do that. If you want to grow, you need to learn how to give that to somebody else. Do you find that to be the case of entrepreneurs having a hard time delegating?
Yeah, buddy, 100%. They got entrepreneurs disease,
Yeah.
man. Delete, delegate, delete and delegate. That's part of
Right.
what I taught a lot of entrepreneurs. Why are you doing this? It doesn't even make sense anymore. Get rid of it. And then, oh, someone else can do this. As a CEO, there are things you should never do. Never.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know you, Joey. We just met today, right?
Sure.
But you remind me a little of Robin Sharma. You got a similar kind of vibe to you. This Zen warrior monk vibe going on there.
Hmm.
And I would, if you were to ask me, how would I kind of evaluate you, your strengths and your possible weaknesses? I'd say your strengths are you're probably very self aware. You're probably very disciplined. You move forward on tasks that you want. Um, your weaknesses are probably what every entrepreneur's weakness is. There's crap in your blind spot that you still haven't seen yet that's biting you in the butt.
That's right.
Maybe people have told you, maybe they haven't. I don't know. But for whatever reason, you haven't been able to absorb the message. And that's what any successful entrepreneur, that's their biggest issue. When I
Hmm.
talk to entrepreneurs, and I'm asking them, so what's your biggest challenge? They're these ones that go, no, nothing. I've got everything handled. Like in my
Hmm.
head, I go, yeah, you're so full of shit.
Right.
Nobody has everything handled. Nobody has even close to everything handled. So, okay. So you're basically telling me you don't trust me enough to tell me, or you're telling me to go screw myself, right? Because that's a polite way of doing one of those.
Essentially.
If I if I if I feel like having the discussion and making a difference for them, I'll tell them what I just told you. I'll say, that's not
Right.
true because everybody's got issues. You're either telling me that I haven't established enough trust and rapport with you, in which case that's on me, or you're telling me, yeah, you something about my vibe is rubbing you the wrong way, and you're politely telling me to go screw myself. And I'll look at him and I'll go, well, which is it? It's a very uncomfortable moment for them because they got called out, right? By somebody who
Right.
wasn't going to just deal with their gentleman's agreement, like slimy little, I'm going to get away from answering you for real. And then they go, oh. And sometimes that'll make the guy go, okay, you know what? Yeah, you haven't earned the right to ask me that question yet. I go, all right, fair enough. Rapport is usually done through commonality. Tell me a few things about yourself. Let's find some commonality between us. And he's either willing to do that or he's not. If he
Hmm.
is, great, we'll do it. If he's not, then really the answer was F you, I don't like you, right? In which case, I don't want to be
It's
around
fine.
people who have that
Right.
kind of vibe with me.
Sure.
I just go, listen, you know what? I wish you well. This conversation's over. God bless.
Right. Go your separate ways. Yeah. Leadership and management. What's the difference between a leader and a manager?
Well, managers manage things. They work on making sure that tasks are delegated and done. And, to be honest with you, I'm not so keen on managers, but I'm really keen on leaders because
Hmm.
leaders are all about serving others, are all about inspiring others to be the best version of themselves. To me, that's the difference between leadership and management. And I like leaders more than I like managers.
You'd agree we still need managers. Just you prefer to
We
work with
do,
leaders.
absolutely. In certain
Yeah.
organizations, absolutely. You definitely need managers, once you get to a certain size. But Steve Jobs, there's a little video of his that's on YouTube where he talks about the fact that he hired some people to manage things at Apple
Hmm.
who were professional managers. And he said, well, these people didn't do anything, so I fired them. And then he said, I brought some people in who were actual doers and I made them managers. They didn't want to be managers,
Right.
but they knew that, we needed someone to lead the team and make sure that certain tasks got done. So um, that's what we ended up doing. And I'm like, wow, it's pretty cool. And this was from the 80s,
Right.
and I'm like, dang, man, that's how Apple thought in the 80s. I kind of like the way Steve Jobs thought. He's my favorite
Yeah.
entrepreneur of all time.
Is he really?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
I remember. I read the book. Well, there was more than one book, but yeah, he's very interesting. And just like every great leader, there's some character, flaws, of course. But his
Naturally.
vision and yeah, his vision and his marketing was absolutely incredible. And many companies outright steal from that today. You could see
They
it.
do.
You could absolutely see it. I lost a lot of weight when I started my business. I gained a lot of weight, I should say, and then I lost about 130 pounds. People ask me how I did it. I always say discipline, Nicky. People always want a quick answer to fix everything, and I just say I got focused discipline. The doctor told me I'm not going to see my daughter graduate if you don't lose the weight. You're pre-diabetic, pre-hypertensive, so that's what I did. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life, Nicky.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I work out every day, 7 days a week. I read every day. I journal most days.
Hmm.
Um, I every day I go on Podmatch and I look to be on a podcast. I'm not on a podcast every day, but I'm on a podcast on most days. So there's a lot of routine and discipline in what I do, and I'm a big believer in it. So I would say discipline is the key to any major success you want. So if someone's listening to this and they're saying, "Well, I want to scale my business. I want to add a zero or two to it." By the way, that's kind of my marketing message. Is
Right.
I tell business owners, I'll help you add 1 to 2 zeros to your income while working less, 10 to 20 hours less a week. Right? That's my shtick. And I say, if you want to do that without discipline, that's impossible.
Hmm.
Absolutely impossible.
As a youth, leaving your home country, going to Greece, then coming to the West, uh, I wonder. You probably consider your father very disciplined, but did that ever come into play? Did you ever consider that as a character trait of yours in your youth?
Honestly, no. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that it really started to penetrate. I was
Hmm.
a kid, man. The only thing that I was disciplined in was studying and schoolwork.
Really?
Yeah. But I didn't
It's
call it that. I didn't think about that. I just knew I had to do my schoolwork.
just did it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Many of us are that way, and the way you portray your father is just wonderfully. It's just a wonderful idol and somebody to look up to like that, and it just kind of passes down. It's great to have that. You say you journal every day. Do you meditate as well?
lately I've not been on the full meditation train, but it's one thing I want to add into my daily routine. It's
Hmm.
definitely helpful when I do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing. It takes very little energy and it's free. You just got to kind of wipe everything away. But I just feel so much greater after doing it. It's just amazing.
Absolutely.
Just 10
You know what? I'm
minutes,
going to do it today. This afternoon, I'm going to do it.
Good for you.
I got a couple meditation apps on the phone. 15
Yeah,
minutes. I'm just
me
going to
too.
lie down,
Yeah.
close my eyes, and let her
And let
rip.
her rip. Yeah, yeah. You'll feel much better. Nicky Billou, what motivates you?
Brother, we're living in a time where a lot of good men and women are feeling uncertain and scared.
Hmm.
The last 2 and 3/4 years, we've had lockdowns. They've destroyed a lot of people's businesses. You know what I'm talking about. A lot of people's mental health has been horribly impacted in a negative way. And the inflation in Canada and the United States and the West is causing a lot of fear among people. Um, and I see that. And I'm motivated to inspire people to believe they can win.
Hmm.
Because when you believe you can win, victory is assured.
Hmm.
When you do not believe you can win, defeat is your destiny. And for me, I come on podcasts like you because I want to share a story or two about me and about some of my clients. And I hope that I'll get a chance to share one very powerful story, at least about one of my clients with you. Because I want the person listening to this who's having a hard day or a hard week or a hard month or quarter or year or last 3 years to listen to somebody who's going to lift them up, energetically speaking, and have them believe they can win again. And if you're listening to this and you're having a hard time generating that belief, borrow mine for a while. I believe in you. I
Hmm.
believe in your soul's greatness. Inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom and the living heart of one of God's amazing creatures that was born with purpose, and yet life beat it out of them.
Hmm.
And it's time for someone to remind them of their purpose and to get them to believe again.
And so it leads to my next question, which I want you to share, of course. How do you measure success?
By the number of people I've helped win. And I'll tell you a story. A few years ago, there was a woman, I'm going to call her Julie. She was introduced to us. She had been the country director for Canada for one of the world's largest and oldest personal development firms. And she was amazing at what she did. And she brought on a man to help her run the company in Canada, whom she believed was very talented.
Hmm.
Kind of like Steve Jobs back in the day with John Scully, right? And just like Steve and John, at first the two of them got along great. But just like Steve and John, after about a year or so, their visions of the future diverged, and they no longer saw eye to eye. And just like Steve and Jobs, this woman was kicked out of her own company. I remember Steve Jobs, you say, how did you get kicked out of the company you started? Right? But it happens, you know. And she was bereft. You know what I mean? Bereft. For about 18 months. Someone introduced her to us. We loved on her. Like we love on everybody who comes our way. She was a good person. It was easy to love on her. And we helped her get clear on her message so she no longer had a Mayo message. Helped her get clear on her ideal target market, her avatar. And we helped her put together an offer that she could go out there and present to the marketplace. And she was working with entrepreneurs who were going through burnout because they'd just been running too hard. Had multi-million dollar companies, but totally burnt out. You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm sure you've seen that.
Certainly.
So she became their advisor, their consigliere, their confidant, and she helped them overcome burnout. That was her message. We're going to overcome burnout.
Hmm.
You're going to get to have your life back. Powerful message if you think about it, right? For someone burned out, like they're going to just say, are you for real? Okay, sign me up. That was kind of how
Needed.
it was, right?
Very much needed, yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, in her first month, she made 10 grand, as a solopreneur type person. That was awesome. In her second month, she made 12 grand. In her third month, she made 18 grand. But in her fourth month, buddy, that's when things became really good because she made $62,200, Joey. And for a solopreneur, that's awesome money, man. That's like 720 grand a year, right? So, anyways, she lives in Ottawa. I live in Toronto. 5-hour drive apart. My oldest son plays soccer, or as I like to call it, the real football, because it's actually played with your feet. So,
Wonderful.
Sport of Kings. He plays center back and fullback, and he's a tremendous player. He's right now he's 6'1",
Ooh.
175 pounds,
Whoa.
fast, great soccer IQ. He's a beast. I mean, and he looks like a soccer player too. He's got the little kind of longish hair in the front, the kind
Sure.
of Italian, Spanish,
Yes.
Latin American
Lean. Yeah.
soccer hair look.
Yes. Yes.
He's kind of like me. He's a little darkish. He's got that that Latin lover look to it. He's perfect look and a great player. So I'm very proud of him. So he had a tournament in Ottawa. Um, she has a son his age. At the time they were 12. Right now, my boy will be 17 in January. So I called her up and I said, "Hey, my son and I are coming to Ottawa for this tourney. How would you and your boy like to come watch a game, maybe grab some lunch?" She said, "I'd love to." So she brought her son and we watched a game and they won the tourney, which was great. And then we all had lunch and then we said our goodbyes. It was a wonderful time. You know, I drove home. A few weeks later, we had a one of our quarterly kind of conferences. It's a 3 day branded thought leader immersion workshop. And this is where we teach folks. We bring them in and we teach them how to be thought leaders and add that 1 to 2 zeros to their income while working 10 to 20 hours less per week. And we had come to the portion of the event where we talk to people about how they could work with us. The famous upsell that happens at events, right? So the way I do it is I ask our people to share their experience. Pretty smart strategy, actually. So that's what I did. I said, "Who would like to share?" Before I could say anything, pick someone, she bounds up on stage and goes, "Me!" And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Floor is yours." She gets up there, puts her hands on her hips, and she's got big energy and she's smiling. And then she starts to cry. And I mean, cry, bawl. Now, dude, I'm a red blooded masculine man. When I see a woman cry, I panic. What did
Me
I
too.
do wrong?
Me too.
What did I do wrong in my head? But the exterior is placid and calm. You know what I mean? So she turns around and looks at me and she's sobbing and crying. And, we hand her some tissues and she goes, "Nicky," in between each sob, she goes, "You didn't know this, but when you and your little son came to visit me and my little son asked me, 'Mommy, who are we going to go meet?' You know how little boys do when they get excited?" And so I smiled at him, she said, and I said, "Oh, we're going to go meet Nicky, Billou, and his son." And then she said, all of a sudden, my sweet, beautiful baby boy became very serious and very quiet, which he hardly ever does. He said, "Oh, Mommy, are we going to go meet the man who saved our family?" And I looked at her, and Joe, I'm an old school masculine man. I don't cry in public. You know what I'm saying? I cried. We hugged. We cried. And in between her sobs, she goes, "Nicky, I didn't tell you this, but when I came to you, bank was about to foreclose on our home. We hadn't paid our mortgage in months. My husband and I were fighting every day like cats and dogs in front of our 3 small children. And it looked like we were going to break up. I was going to lose my precious family. You literally helped us save our family." Now, Joe, I had no idea she was dealing with this. She did not share this with me. So I just thought to myself, you know what? God is good. God is on my side, and God sent me somebody to serve and gave me the opportunity to serve them. And I just hope every day that I'm worthy of more opportunities to be of service to people. Because Nicky Billou on his own is just another human being with all the foibles and flaws of every other human being. But Nicky Billou is someone who's serving God. Yeah, that service to God's pretty special. And we had 8 people in the room who were prospects for our year-long program, which was a high-ticket program. Normally, some buy, some don't, and some we need to have a bit of conversation with, persuasion. Everyone bought, and instantly. There was no argument, no conversation. They just took the forms, they filled them out, they handed them in. Now, why did that happen? It ain't because I'm special, I'll promise you that. It's because I had the world's best salesperson working for me, 12-year-old boy. You know what I mean? And that one line that she said, are we going to get to meet the man who saved our family? That freaking line made 8 sales like that in a heartbeat. And it wasn't like I was trying to have someone say a line to make the sales. You understand where I'm going with this, right? Like I had
It was not a
no
setup.
idea. It was not a
Right.
setup. It wouldn't have worked if it was a setup.
Right.
Candidly, it wouldn't have
Bit
worked.
disingenuous. Yeah.
It would have come across as disingenuous and disgusting and all that. I had no idea she was going to say it. I was blown away that she said it, and I was blown away that everybody signed up. Like I went to our team after, and I go, "What just happened?" It's a good thing, but what just happened? And that was a powerful lesson for me. Everybody is hurting out there. They just may not be ready to tell you. And as long as you just keep your eye on, this is a person, this is a human being, I'm here to serve, everything will turn out okay. You know, everything will turn out okay.
Too often we forget how simple relationships can be with people to dig into their ideas, and if they have that idea that's different from mine, I shouldn't like them. That shouldn't be the case at all. Good people that disagree can still love and respect another and talk more and be good friends. And when you have somebody like that who came from the heart and expressed how you help them, I mean, there can, I don't know if there could be a greater pleasure. That's a wonderful, wonderful story, and I'm so glad you helped her and continue to help others. Nicky Billou, what an absolute pleasure talking to you today. You help companies, you're a podcaster, you're an author, you're a thought leader. How can we get in touch with you?
Um, if you spell my name, Nicky Billou, NICKYBILLOU, and you go onto most social media platforms, you should be able to find me and just say, "Hey, I heard you on a podcast," and connect. I'll say yes. you know, and if you want to read one of my books, I've written and published a few books. Just type in my name in Amazon, and my 2 podcasts are there as well. Thought Leader Revolution. If you're a man or you know a man who needs masculine energy in your life or in his life, go check it out. Sovereign Man podcast is what it's called and what it's all about. And if you're a business owner and you're struggling and you're hurting and you'd like to have a conversation with somebody to help you get unstuck, then there is a link to book a success call with me. And it's ecircleacademy.com/appointment. It's complimentary. There's no fee for it. We'll sit down, we'll have a chat. Let's take a look at what's going on and why it's not working and what it's going to take to have you start working.
Very good. I'll make sure to put those in the show notes. Nicky, thank you again so much for your time. When I'm in Toronto next, I'll look you up. We will have a cup of coffee and talk about good times.
I'd like that very much, Joey. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks for having me on the show. It was a pleasure. It was an honor.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.